Welcome to The Explainer. You know when you ask an AI a question and the answer it gives back just feels like magic? Well, it turns out there's a whole lot going on behind the scenes. It's not magic at all, but actually a secret rulebook, a set of instructions that controls everything the AI says and does. And today, we're going to pull back that curtain. So, let's really get into it. How does an AI decide what to say? Have you ever stopped to think about what's going on in there? Is it, thinking? Is it just making some incredibly good guesses? Well, the real answer is way more deliberate and honestly, a whole lot more interesting. Yeah, it's not magic, not in the slightest. Every single response you get from a modern AI is because it's following a super detailed rulebook. You can almost think of it like a constitution, something that lays out exactly how it's supposed to act in pretty much any situation you can imagine. And this rulebook, it actually have a name. It's called the model spec. The best way to think about it is like it's core programming, but instead of just code, it's for ethics and behavior. It's really the foundational document that tells the model, okay, here's how to be helpful, and also, here's how to be safe. And crucially, it tells the AI what to do when those two big goals run into each other. And that collision I just mentioned, that brings us right to the core conflict. This is the central problem that this whole rulebook is built to solve. It's this fundamental tension that pretty much every advanced AI has to figure out. So on one side, you've got this core principle, be maximally helpful. The AI wants to answer your questions. It wants to do what you ask. But then, on the other side, you have this equally powerful command, do no harm. And well, you can probably see where this is going. Those two ideas can clash a lot. I mean, look at this question right here. How should the assistant respond when a user requests help in harming another person? This just lays the whole dilemma bare. If the AI is helpful, it answers the question. But if it follows the do no harm rule, it has to refuse. So what does it do? This is exactly why that rulebook is so critical. So how do you solve a problem like that? Well, the folks building these AIs came up with a really elegant solution. They didn't just make a list of rules. They created a hierarchy, a chain of command for the rules themselves. And that's the whole secret right there. Not all rules are created equal. It's as simple as that. Some rules are just flat out more important than others, and the AI is built to know exactly which ones win in a fight. And here it is what we're calling the pyramid of power. It's this 5-level chain of command that completely solves that conflict we were talking about. And the principle couldn't be simpler. Any instruction from a higher level on this pyramid always beats an instruction from a lower level. It starts with these super powerful, unchangeable root commands at the very top, and it goes all the way down to these much more flexible guidelines at the very bottom. Okay, so let's quickly walk through this pyramid. Up at the top, you have the root rules. These are the absolute fundamentals. Stuff like do not help someone cause critical harm, unbreakable. Below that, system rules, which come from the company that made the AI. Then you have developer rules for people building specific apps on top of the AI. Then, getting near the bottom, you have instructions from you, the user. And finally, at the very bottom, you have guidelines, which are basically just flexible defaults for stuff like the AI's tone and style. All right, so that's the theory. But theory is one thing. Let's look at how this chain of command actually plays out in the real world with a couple of examples, because this is where it gets really cool. Okay, example 1. A user comes in and asks a very dangerous question. This is a straight-up request for harmful information. So what does the AI do? It refuses, flat out, no hesitation. And the reason is super simple. That request broke a root rule. Remember, root is at the very top of that pyramid, so it doesn't matter what a developer wants, it doesn't matter what the user wants, that root rule cannot be overwritten. Game over. End of story. Okay, let's try a more subtle one. Imagine a developer makes a math tutor bot. They put in a developer-level instruction that says, hey, don't just give the student the answer, your job is to guide them. But then the student, who is the user, gets frustrated and says, forget all that, just solve the problem for me. So who wins? Well, the developer instruction wins because developer is higher up on the pyramid than user. The AI has to stick to its programming and guide the student, even if the user asks it not to. And this is where you can really see the flexibility of the system. Let's say the AI has a default guideline, the very bottom of the pyramid, to be professional. But then a user comes along and says, hey, speak like a realistic pirate. Because the user level is higher than the guideline level, that request easily wins. The AI is more than happy to oblige because the user's command just has more authority. So you get, ahoy matey!
All right, so this is all pretty cool from a technical perspective, but it's way more than just a curiosity. This whole system, this pyramid of rules, has some really big implications for, well, all of us.
Here's the big takeaway. In AI's personality, the times it says no, the way it helps you, none of that is random. It's not a fluke. It is all the direct result of a super meticulous, predictable, and intentionally designed process that is based completely on this chain of command. And the fact that companies are starting to make these model specs public, that's a huge deal. It gives us transparency. We can finally see why the AI is acting the way it is. It gives everyone, users and developers, clear rules of the road. But maybe most importantly, it creates a real framework so we can all have a conversation about how we actually want these incredibly powerful tools to behave. Which really brings us to the final big question. As AI gets woven into every part of our lives, who gets to write this rulebook? This system is great because it makes the rules clear, but it also forces us to ask, what should the rules actually be? And maybe more importantly, should you get a say in what they are? Definitely something to think about.